Lyra came back the next morning. She walked into the shop slowly, afraid to hope. Her guardian stood behind her, looking bored and impatient. They did not expect much. Toys broke. That was life. That was how things worked. But Deho smiled when he saw them. He held out his hand. In his palm sat the dragon, wings folded, eyes glowing softly. Lyra gasped and reached for it with trembling fingers. The moment she touched it, the dragon came alive. It flew up from Deho's hand and circled around her head, its tiny wings catching the light. Then it opened its mouth and sang. The melody filled the shop. Lyra's guardian stopped breathing. Even the people walking past the shop stopped to listen. The song was old and new at the same time. It was sad and hopeful. It was the most beautiful sound anyone had ever heard. Lyra began to cry, but she was smiling too. "You fixed it," she whispered. "You really fixed it." "I told you I would," Deho said. The guardian stepped forward, reaching for a credit chip. "Name your price. Whatever you want, we will pay." But Deho shook his head. "No charge. I already got what I needed." They did not understand what he meant, but they thanked him again and again before leaving. Lyra looked back one more time at the shop door, the dragon flying beside her, still singing. She waved at Deho with her small hand. He waved back. After they left, Deho sat alone in his quiet shop. He felt tired but peaceful. The music box was empty now. His sister's song lived inside a dragon from another world. Somehow, that felt right. 2 hours later, the station security officers arrived. There were 4 of them, wearing heavy armor and carrying weapons. They did not speak to Deho. They simply told him to come with them. When he asked why, they did not answer. Deho's heart beat fast as they led him through the station. They took him up, past the trading levels, past the residential areas, into the sections he had never seen before. The corridors became wider. The lights became brighter. Everything looked expensive and clean. This was where the powerful people lived, the rulers and the lords and the ancient beings who controlled the galaxy. Deho had never belonged here. He was just a mechanic from the lower decks. They brought him to a massive door made of black metal. Strange symbols were carved into its surface. The officers stepped back and the door opened slowly. The room inside was bigger than any room Deho had ever seen. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into shadows. The walls were covered with banners showing images of dragons in flight. And at the far end, sitting on a throne made of dark stone, was the largest living creature Deho had ever seen. Lord Kalen rose to his full height, 12 feet tall, covered in scales like dark bronze, with wings folded against his back, and eyes that burned like golden fire. He was a draconeth, a dragon lord. Deho could not move. He could not breathe. Slowly, the dragon lord walked toward him. Each step shook the floor. When he stopped, he was so close that Deho could feel the heat coming from his body. "Do you know what you have done?" Lord Kalen asked. His voice was deep and ancient, like stones grinding together. "I fixed a toy," Deho whispered. "No." The dragon lord's eyes narrowed. "You did much more than that. That toy you fixed is called a Kaleth's Echo. We made them for our children, long ago, before our world was destroyed. They carry the songs of our people inside them. The song you brought back to life is the lullaby of Drakenar. It was the last song our mother sang before the fire came and burned everything." Deho did not understand. "How is that possible? I used a melody from my sister's music box, a human song from Earth." Lord Kalen was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "I do not know how it is possible, but I heard the song, human. I heard every note. It is the same melody that my own mother sang to me 8,000 years ago. Your sister's song and our ancient lullaby are the same. The Dragon Lord did something that Deho never expected. He lowered himself down, bending his great body until his eyes were level with Deho's. We believed that song was lost forever. Every recording was destroyed. Every singer was killed. For 8,000 years, we have mourned in silence. A single tear fell from Kalen's eye. It looked like liquid gold as it ran down his scaled face. And then you, a small human mechanic in a junk shop, brought it back. You gave us our voice again. Deho did not know what to say. He stood there, shaking, as the most powerful being he had ever met cried in front of him. How did you do it? Kalen asked. How did you make it work? So Deho told him. He told him about Lyra and her sad eyes. He told him about working through the night. He told him about his sister Yuna, who loved dragons and music, and who died too young. He told him about the music box he had carried across the stars, because he could not let go. When he finished, Lord Kalen nodded slowly. You sacrificed your last memory of your sister to save a toy for a child you did not know. You gave up everything you had left of her. She would have wanted me to, Deho said quietly. Yuna always said that broken things deserve a second chance. Lord Kalen stood back to his full height. His golden eyes were bright with new purpose. Park Deho, you have given my people something we thought we would never have again. Now I want to give you something in return. A choice. Deho looked up at the Dragon Lord, waiting. Come with us, Kalen said. Help us restore the relics of our past. Help us find other pieces of our lost civilization. Become one of us, in all the ways that matter. The offer hung in the air between them, like the last note of a song. And Deho, the simple mechanic from the lower decks, realized that his life was about to change forever. Deho did not answer right away. He returned to his small shop in the lower decks and sat alone in the dark. Lord Kalen's offer echoed in his mind. Become the first human to serve the Draconeth. Help them rebuild their lost civilization. Leave behind his simple life and step into something much bigger. He was afraid. He was just a mechanic. He fixed broken machines. He was not a hero or a leader. He was nobody special. But then he thought about Yuna. He thought about what she would say if she were here. She had always believed in him, even when he did not believe in himself. She had always pushed him to be more than he thought he could be. For 5 years he had been hiding, running away from his grief, running away from the world. Maybe it was time to stop running. The next morning word spread through the station. Everyone was talking about the human mechanic who had gained the favor of the Draconeth. Nobody knew exactly what had happened, but rumors flew like birds through the corridors. Some species were curious. The Valorians sent a representative to ask about trade agreements. Other merchants wondered if they could use Deho to reach the Dragon Lords, but not everyone was happy. The Keth Syndicate controlled most of the black market on Keva 7. They dealt in stolen goods, illegal weapons, and forbidden technology. When they heard that a simple human now had access to ancient Draconeth relics, they saw an opportunity. Deho was walking home through the lower corridors when they found him. 3 Keth soldiers stepped out of the shadows, blocking his path. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and black eyes. Their leader smiled, showing teeth like needles. Park Deho, the leader said, the human who fixes dragons. You are coming with us. I do not think so, Deho said. His voice was calm, but his heart was racing. You do not have a choice. The leader raised a weapon. The Draconeth have many valuable things. You are going to help us get them. If you refuse, we will hurt you. If you run, we will find you. If you try to call for help, we will kill you before anyone comes. Deho looked at the 3 soldiers. He had no weapon. He had no training in combat. He was just a mechanic. But he was a human mechanic, and humans were very good at solving problems. He raised his hands like he was surrendering. Okay, you win. I will come with you. The leader smiled and stepped forward to grab him. That was when Deho moved. He had spent years in the lower decks. He knew every pipe, every wire, every system in these corridors. He reached up and grabbed a coolant pipe above his head. With one hard pull, he broke the seal. Hot steam exploded into the corridor. The Keth soldiers screamed and covered their eyes. Deho was already running. He had closed his eyes before the steam came, so he was not blinded. He knew these corridors by heart. Behind him he heard the soldiers shouting. They were coming after him. He turned a corner and saw a maintenance drone moving along the wall. It was a small robot, designed to clean and repair the station systems. Deho pulled out his toolkit and opened the drone's control panel. His fingers moved fast, rewiring the machine. The drone spun around and flew toward the pursuing soldiers. It crashed into the leader's face and exploded in a shower of sparks and metal. The leader fell. The other two kept coming. Deho ran into a storage area and found the fire control panel. He had helped install this system 2 years ago. He knew exactly how it worked. He punched in a code and activated the emergency foam. White foam shot from nozzles in the ceiling, filling the corridor. The Keth soldiers slipped and fell, unable to see or move in the thick substance. Deho climbed over them and kept running. He made it 3 more corridors before his legs gave out. He fell against a wall, breathing hard, covered in foam and sweat. That was when the Draconeth guards found him. They came from above, dropping through emergency hatches like shadows made of bronze. 6 warriors in full armor, moving with a speed that seemed impossible for being so large. They surrounded Deho, but they were not there to hurt him. "Lord Kalen sent us," their captain said. "You are safe now." Moments later, Lord Kalen himself arrived. The Dragon Lord looked at the foam-covered corridor, the broken drone, the unconscious Keth soldiers. Then he looked at Deho, bruised and tired, but alive. "You did this?" Kalen asked. "Alone?" "I am a mechanic," Deho said. "I used the tools I had." Something changed in Kalen's golden eyes. It looked like respect. "The Syndicate attacked you because of your connection to us. That is unacceptable." The Dragon Lord's voice grew cold and hard. "Any who threaten you threaten the remnant itself. From this moment, you are under my personal protection." Deho looked up at the massive dragon. "I have made my decision. I will come with you. I will help you find what was lost." Lord Kalen nodded slowly. "I hoped you would say that." They left the lower decks together, walking toward the docking bays where the Draconeth ship waited. As they walked, a small figure ran toward them, through the crowd. It was Lyra, the little Valorian girl with the dragon toy. She threw her arms around Deho's legs and hugged him tight. The mechanical dragon flew around them both, singing its beautiful song. "Where are you going?" she asked. Deho knelt down so he could look into her eyes. "I am going to help the Dragon Lords find things that were lost long ago. I am going to fix more broken things." Lyra nodded seriously. "Will you come back?" "I will try." She reached out and touched his hand. "Thank you for fixing my dragon, mister. Nobody else would help me, but you did." Deho smiled. "That is what I do. I fix things that others say cannot be fixed." As they boarded the Draconeth ship, Lord Kalen spoke quietly to his attendant. "The galaxy calls humans fragile, short-lived, insignificant. They are wrong. That man fought 3 armed soldiers with nothing but steam and foam and broken machines. He held a broken toy and saw a soul worth saving. He heard our grief and answered with his own." The Dragon Lord watched Deho through the ship's window. That is not weakness. That is a strength we forgot we needed. The ship rose from the station and moved toward the stars. Daiho watched Keva 7 grow smaller below him. He was leaving his old life behind. He did not know what was waiting for him out there in the darkness between stars. But for the first time in years, he was not afraid. 6 months passed. Daiho had become a legend among the Draconeth. They called him the Keeper of Echoes. He had restored 17 ancient relics, bringing back pieces of their lost culture one by one. He had trained young Draconeth as his apprentices. They called him the Small Dragon and followed him everywhere. His workshop aboard the remnant flagship was filled with tools from Earth and alien technology he had collected. On his workbench sat his sister's empty music box. He had connected it to a Draconeth communication crystal. Now, when the fleet needed to gather, they played Yuna's melody. Her song called the dragons home. One day, Daiho was working on an ancient archive when he found something extraordinary. Hidden in the data was a star map. It showed a location deep in dangerous space, beyond the borders of known territory. It was the location of Draconar's heart. The Draconeth homeworld had been destroyed 8,000 years ago. Everyone believed nothing remained, but according to this map, a small piece had survived. A fragment of the planet, hidden away in secret. A vault containing genetic samples, cultural records, and dormant eggs. The seeds of a new generation. Lord Kalen stared at the map for a long time. His hands were shaking. "If this is real," he said quietly, "then we have a future. We can rebuild our people." "It is real," Daiho said. "I am sure of it." But there was a problem. The location was deep inside the territory of the Void Swarm. The Swarm was a hostile machine intelligence that destroyed any ship that entered its space. The Draconeth fleet alone was not strong enough to break through. Daiho thought about this problem all night. And then he had an idea. "Let me call in some favors," he said. Over the past 6 months, Daiho had quietly helped many people. He had fixed a Valorian child's toy. He had repaired a smuggler's prosthetic arm. He had restored a sacred instrument for a species of musical aliens. Small acts of kindness. Broken things made whole. Now he reached out to all of them. The response amazed even him. Ships arrived from across the galaxy. Valorians brought their fastest transports. Former smugglers brought weapons and shield technology. The musical aliens brought communication jammers that could confuse the swarm's sensors. Species that had never worked together before came to help the human mechanic who had helped them. Lord Kalen looked at the assembled fleet and then at Daiho. "You did this with kindness," the Dragon Lord said. "You built an alliance, not with power or threats, but with small acts of repair." Daiho shrugged. "That is what humans do. We fix things. Sometimes the things we fix are machines. Sometimes they are hearts." The fleet jumped to Void Swarm territory. Swarm ships attacked from all directions, their weapons tearing through shields and hulls. The Allied fleet fought back desperately, buying time for the Draconeth carriers to push forward. Daiho was not a soldier, but he was not useless. He ran through the flagship, keeping systems running. He rerouted power when conduits failed. He patched hull breaches with welding torches and emergency sealant. Wherever something broke, he fixed it. Then the main shield generator was hit. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Without shields, the flagship would be torn apart in seconds. Daiho checked the damage report, and his heart sank. The generator was not destroyed, but the power connection was severed. 2 cables had been blown apart and needed to be reconnected. There was no time to repair them properly, no time to find the right tools. Daiho crawled into the maintenance shaft and found the broken cables. They were thick and heavy, sparking with enough energy to kill him instantly. He knew what he had to do. He grabbed both cables with his bare hands and held them together, completing the circuit through his own body. The pain was beyond anything he had ever felt. It was like fire and ice and lightning all at once. He screamed, but he did not let go. Electricity poured through him, burning his hands, cooking his nerves, stopping his heart, and starting it again. But the shields came back online. The flagship survived the next attack. The fleet pushed through the swarm defenses. And there, floating in the darkness of space, was Drakenar's heart, a crystalline asteroid glowing with ancient energy. They had found it. The Drakeneth had a future. Deho collapsed in the maintenance shaft, his hands burned black, his body broken. The Drakeneth healers worked on him for 3 days. They saved his life, but they could not save his hands. The damage was too severe. The nerves were destroyed. The bones were shattered. Lord Kalen visited him in the medical bay. The Dragon Lord looked older somehow, as if the weight of centuries was finally showing. "You sacrificed your hands for us," Kalen said. "Your tools, your life's work. We can give you new ones. Drakeneth prosthetics, the finest ever made." Deho looked at his ruined hands and smiled weakly. "Just get me some scrap metal and a welding torch," he said. "I will make my own." Lord Kalen laughed. It was a deep, rolling sound that echoed through the medical bay. His attendants stared in shock. They had not heard their lord laugh in centuries. "Of course you will," Kalen said. "You are human." Years passed. The Drakeneth remnant rebuilt. The eggs in the vault hatched. Children played in new halls, on new worlds. The ancient songs filled the air again. At the center of their new capital city stood a statue. It showed a small human kneeling, holding a tiny dragon in his hands. The inscription said, "He saw what was broken and made it whole. He heard our silence and gave us a song. He was small and he was mighty. He was human." Deho, now old and gray, still ran a repair shop. His prosthetic hands, which he had built himself, moved with perfect precision. He had never stopped working. He never would. Lyra worked beside him. She was grown now, the first Valorian apprentice to a Drakeneth master artificer. The mechanical dragon still flew around their workshop, still singing its beautiful song. One day, a young Drakeneth child came into the shop, carrying a broken toy. It was a small mechanical bird with one wing missing and dark eyes. The child looked up at Deho with hopeful eyes. "Can you fix it?" the child asked. Deho smiled and took the toy gently from the child's hands. "I will see what I can do." Outside the window, the stars burned bright and endless. Somewhere out there, other species were telling stories about the human mechanic who had saved the dragons. The small man who had fixed a toy and changed history. They called him many things: the Keeper of Echoes, the Small Dragon, the Bridge Between Stars. But Deho did not care about titles or legends. He only cared about the broken bird in his hands and the hopeful child waiting for a miracle. That was enough. That had always been enough. He picked up his tools and began to work. The space station Keva 7 floated at the edge of known space, like a city made of metal and lights. Thousands of aliens from hundreds of worlds walked through its corridors every day. They came to trade, to deal, and to find things they could not find anywhere else. In the lower levels of the station, where the air smelled like oil and burnt metal, there was a small repair shop. The sign above the door said, "Second Chances" in 5 different languages. Inside, a human man sat at his workbench, his hands busy with a broken navigation device. His name was Park Deho. He was 34 years old, with tired eyes and gentle hands. He had left Earth 5 years ago, and he had not gone back since. The stars were his home now. The broken machines were his family. Deho was not special. He was not a soldier or a scientist or a hero. He was just a mechanic. but he was very good at what he did. Other species in the galaxy had noticed something strange about humans. They could fix anything. Give a human some wire and scrap metal, and they would make it work again. Nobody knew why. It was just something humans did. The door to his shop opened with a soft hiss. Deho looked up and saw two figures enter. One was tall, with wings like a moth and skin that glowed softly in shades of blue and purple. This was a Valorian, one of the gentle species that lived in the outer systems. The other figure was small, a child. She held something against her chest with both hands. The adult Valorian spoke first. Her voice was musical but impatient. "We are only passing through. The child wanted to ask you something, but we do not have time for this." Deho put down his tools and looked at the child. She was beautiful in the way all children are beautiful. Her wings were still small and soft, not yet ready for flight. Her large dark eyes looked up at him with hope and fear mixed together. "What do you have there?" Deho asked softly. The child stepped forward. She opened her hands and showed him what she was holding. It was a toy. A mechanical dragon, small enough to fit in her palm. Once, it must have been wonderful. Deho could see the fine details in the metal scales, the tiny joints in the wings designed to let it fly. But now one wing was shattered. The eyes were dark. It was dead. "Can you fix it?" the child asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. The adult Valorian made a sound of frustration. "Lyra, I told you. It is old junk. It cannot be repaired. We need to go." "Please," the child said. She was not talking to the adult. She was talking to Deho. "My mother gave it to me before she went away." Deho felt something twist in his chest. He knew that look. He had seen it in the mirror for 5 years. The look of someone holding on to the last piece of someone they loved. "How much?" the adult asked, reaching for a credit chip. "We will pay for your time, but be quick." "No charge," Deho said. The adult Valorian stared at him. "What?" Deho reached out and gently took the dragon from Lyra's small hands. He turned it over, examining the damage. It was worse than he thought. The internal parts were ancient. He had never seen technology like this before. But he had fixed impossible things before. That was what humans did. "Leave it with me," he said. "Come back in 3 days." The adult wanted to argue, but Lyra was already smiling. It was a small smile, careful and afraid to hope too much. But it was real. She bowed her head to Deho in the Valorian way of showing thanks. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you so much." After they left, Deho sat alone in his shop, holding the broken dragon. He turned it over in his hands, feeling the weight of it. Such a small thing. Such a simple request. Fix a child's toy. But as he looked closer, he began to realize this was not simple at all. The metal was unlike anything he had seen. The design was ancient, maybe thousands of years old. This was not a toy from a store. This was something special, something rare. He did not know what it was. He did not know where it came from, but he knew one thing for certain. He would fix it, for Lyra, for that small, careful smile. Deho did not know that he was being watched. Far above, in the upper levels of the station where only the rich and powerful were allowed, a massive figure stood before a wall of screens. He was 12 feet tall, covered in scales the color of dark bronze. His eyes were gold, like coins made of fire. He was a Draconith, one of the dragon lords of the old empire. His name was Lord Kalen, and he was one of the last of his kind. On the screen before him, he watched the human mechanic examine the broken toy. His clawed hands gripped the railing in front of him so hard that the metal bent. "Find out who that human is," he said to his attendant. His voice was deep, like thunder rolling across mountains. "Find out everything about him." "My lord," the attendant said carefully, "it is just a toy. It is just a human. Lord Kalen turned his golden eyes to his servant. In them was something old and heavy, something like grief. That is not just a toy, he said quietly. That is a piece of my dead world, and I want to know why a human is holding it. In his small shop, surrounded by broken machines and flickering lights, Daeho began to work. He had no idea that his simple act of kindness had caught the attention of one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. He was just trying to fix a toy for a sad little girl. He did not know that he was about to change everything. The first night, Daeho did not sleep. He sat at his workbench with the broken dragon before him, surrounded by tools and spare parts. The station lights dimmed to simulate nighttime, but he did not notice. His whole world had become this small mechanical creature in his hands. The more he studied it, the more amazed he became. The craftsmanship was beyond anything he had ever seen. Every scale was perfect. Every joint was designed with care and love. Whoever made this had spent months, maybe years, on this single toy. But the damage was serious. The right wing was completely shattered. The power core, a small crystal deep inside the dragon's chest, was dead and dark. The internal wires were corroded with age. Daeho searched every database on the station. He looked for spare parts, for blueprints, for anything that could help. He found nothing. This dragon was made with technology that no longer existed. There were no replacement parts. There were no instructions. Most mechanics would have given up. They would have told the child that some things cannot be fixed. They would have been right. But Daeho was human, and humans did not give up easily. On the second night he began to build. He took scrap titanium from an old ship hull and began to shape it by hand. He had no mold, no machine to help him. He used only his eyes, his hands, and his memory of what the original wing looked like. Hour after hour he filed and bent and hammered the metal until it matched the ancient design. His fingers bled. His back ached from bending over the workbench. But he did not stop. The power core was a bigger problem. The crystal inside the dragon was meant to hold energy, but it was completely empty. Daeho tried connecting it to modern power cells, but nothing worked. The technology was too different, too old. He sat back in his chair and stared at the ceiling. What could he use? What human technology could possibly connect with something from thousands of years ago? His eyes fell on a small box sitting on a shelf above his bed. It was made of dark wood, scratched and worn from years of use. He had carried it with him from Earth. He had carried it across the stars. Slowly, he reached up and took it down. It was a music box. When he opened it, a tiny mechanism inside began to turn, and a soft melody filled the small shop. The tune was simple and sweet, like something a mother would sing to a child falling asleep. His sister had loved this music box. Her name was Park Yuna, and she had been 8 years younger than him. She used to fall asleep listening to this song every night. She used to hum it while she played. She had died 7 years ago. A machine failure at the factory where she worked. An accident that should never have happened. An accident that Daeho blamed himself for, even though he knew it was not his fault. He had kept the music box because it was all he had left of her. Now, looking at the broken dragon, he made a decision. Carefully, with hands that trembled slightly, he opened the music box and removed the tiny power cell inside. It was old human technology, simple and basic, but it still worked. It still held a charge after all these years. He spent the rest of the night connecting the small power cell to the ancient crystal. It should not have worked. The technology was too different. But Daeho kept trying, kept adjusting, kept refusing to give up. Just before dawn on the third day, something happened. The crystal began to glow. It was a soft light at first, barely visible, but it grew stronger. The ancient power core was waking up, fed by the tiny human battery that had once played a song for a little girl on Earth. He reconnected the internal wires. He cleaned every gear and joint until they moved smoothly again. And then he found something unexpected. Deep inside the dragon, hidden beneath layers of machinery, there was a tiny speaker. The dragon was designed to make sound, to sing. But the speaker was damaged. The delicate parts inside were rusted and broken. Deho looked at his sister's music box, now empty and silent. He looked at the broken speaker inside the dragon. They were almost the same size. He knew what he had to do. With steady hands, he removed the speaker mechanism from the music box and placed it inside the dragon. He connected it to the power core. He sealed the dragon's chest. Then he pressed the small button on the dragon's back. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the dragon's eyes lit up with golden light. Its wings began to move, slowly at first, then faster. It rose from the workbench and hovered in the air in front of Deho. And it opened its tiny mouth and began to sing. The melody that came out was the same tune from the music box, the same song that Yuna used to hum. But there was something more in it now, something ancient and beautiful that mixed with the simple human tune and made it into something new. Deho sat perfectly still as tears ran down his face. The song filled his small shop and spilled out into the corridor. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever heard. For the first time in 7 years, he did not feel alone. He had fixed the dragon. But in some strange way, the dragon had also fixed something inside him. He did not know that far away, in the upper levels of the station, Lord Kalen was watching through a tiny camera drone. The ancient Draconeth stood frozen as the melody reached him. He had not heard that song in 8,000 years. It was the lullaby of his dead world. The song mothers sang to their children before the fire came and took everything away. It was impossible. It was a miracle. And a human had made it happen.